So I'm going to pull up on a tapped out here. And all my decks are private because they're all jank and I don't want anybody stealing my ideas. Because on the off chance that I'm got it right, I want to get all the credit for it. But Cold Brew MTG is going to put up a tapped out site where you can go to and see the 75. Just make sure you check out YouTube and we'll put all the info up there. Let's start plugging in some cards here. Because I think otherwise, like, Spell Queller, obviously, is going to be just a great addition to the shell that we're building. Galvanic Bombardment and Shock, I think, is going to be, like, the staple removal in any sort of control package, whether it's, Mardu control, which I think could be a really good thing in this format with Yini's expertise. But if you're running red and you're running removal, you're running that. So those are almost no-brainers. And then you've got some notes here about Stasis Snare, which we do have access to. I'd be interested in seeing if Fumigate and Consulate Crackdown fit in. Yeah. Which will probably come after this week and after the Pro Tour.
Yeah, once we see what the metagame actually looks like. I'm not sold on Consulate Crackdown, but if Vehicles or the Rebirth of Metalwork Colossus or something like that becomes big, Consulate Crackdown is a huge sideboard piece that can just absolutely destroy some strategies.
Well, since you mentioned Metalwork Colossus, I will say that Haunted Cloak is still a legal card, and if you don't
legal and still good,
and if you don't know about it, maybe that'll be a random deck tech that we post. Still the best 4-0 deck at the Island Games.
I was just trying to have fun.
People are still raving about the spice that is the Haunted Cloak, so. You guys will be privy to that pretty soon. All right, I'm just going through and deleting these jank cards. Thraben Inspector, I'm going to write down here as a question, just because of Metallic Rebuke.
Yeah, that was we were kind of going an artifact theme for a while last night amongst the brews. And Thraben Inspector, if you're running Metallic Rebuke or any other improvised cards, is really good because it counts as an artifact in the form of a clue, in addition to the 1/2. And if you play turn 1 Thraben Inspector, you just feel like you can't lose.
What's the saying? We are going to make t-shirts. Turn 1 Thraben, I win.
Yeah.
Turn 1 Thraben, I win. It almost even rhymes.
Almost.
Is there some sort of symbol for turn 1?
No.
Because then it would be this like
T1 colon.
T1 colon. It looks like T1's a cost.
Yeah.
T1 Thraben.
T1 dash.
And then I colon win.
Yeah.
That's not bad.
Yeah.
We could do it. But yeah, turn 1 Thraben, I win. And we could have like those little tentacles that he's staring at, just like somewhere on the shirt creeping in. It's something like that.
Good.
All right, so why don't you? I'll do the typing. You just tell me. Why don't you just tell me your gut on what you feel? So what I've got in here, I'll delete the dispels too. But I've got 4 Felidar Guardian, 4 Saheeli Rai, and that's where we're gonna start. And then you just kind of fill in the pieces, and we'll see what we arrive at here.
So I think that. I'm honestly not sold on running a playset of each, but that can be stuff that we can take off if there's spots that we want to later on.
I think for the exercise, if it's a combo deck,
it's a good place to start.
It's
definitely a good place to start.
Sure, okay.
I think the best form of disruption that we have is Spell Queller, and I think that it would be a mistake to play less than a playset.
Sure, and I think at the 3-drop slot, it's probably one of the most efficient cards we can play.
Absolutely, and it keeps us playing at instant speed early, which is very important if we're keeping our opponent off track.
Right, draw go in my notes here. I have I asked you about curve. You said efficiency, and playing a draw go is more important than hitting curve. So good.
Also on there, we need ways to find the combo. I will start with a playset of Anticipate and Glimmer of Genius, expecting to cut some of them later on.
Sure.
But that's when we were brewing the you missed the T.
What?
Anticipate
is not a word?
Anticipate is not a word.
Or a card?
No.
You're lying. No, sometimes I anticipate because I have to pay 2 mana to anticipate. So see what I did there?
Yeah.
All right, Glimmer.
So yeah, Glimmer of Genius as well.
Cool.
This is where we started when we were building the Jeskai Control deck, and I think we ended up shaving some number. I think we went down to 3 Anticipates.
It was 3 Anticipates, which seemed fine.
We started at 4 because that's where you want to be. You're selling out. You're getting your 4 ofs. I think that's great. A playset of Galvanic Bombardment. I don't think shock is entirely where we want to be, since I think the mode to the face is going to be a lot less relevant than it is in the modern version with lightning bolt.
Right.
And so the ability to get more value off the second galvanic bombardment is important. Maybe we address like 2 shocks on the sideboard as galvanic bombardments 5 and 6, but I think right now a playset of galvanic.
First off, and you're saying a playset of galvanic bombardment. Galvanic bombardment is a card where you want to run a playset or you don't run it at all.
Yes.
Correct?
Absolutely.
Okay. So if you're going to run it, you run a playset. In our Jeskai build, we're running 4 Harness Lightning or 3.
I think we're at 3 Harness Lightning.
3 Harness Lightning. And that would be a place that I'd say if we're going to, parallel this Splinter Twin Modern deck that we're going off of, but we're also pulling from a Jeskai Brew we've already done in this standard.
Yeah. And it's had at least moderate success.
It's had its bad matchups.
Yeah.
But I think more so than that, mana sequencing in that deck was just super tough.
It's really tough running 3 colors in this standard.
Right. So, but we get a lot of help, and I think Thraben's going to be a part of that with the Spire of Industry.
Yeah, I'm not sold on that. I think because we're running Glimmer of Genius and possibly Harness Lightning, Ether Hub is probably just a better option.
Sure.
At worst, it's a Tendo Ice Bridge, which if it was just Tendo Ice Bridge, I don't want to put in the deck. But late game, you cast a Glimmer, now you get 2 more activations off.
Right, Glimmer's kind of in our Jeskai deck. It's the reason we went to Harness Lightning, because we're just Torrential Gearhulk into Glimmer to get another 2 energy, cast Harness Lightning, 7 energies. It's taking care of anything. So the whole reason I brought up Harness Lightning was because Shock may find a slot in the main board if we're taking that shell. If we don't run Radiant Flames as our Electrolyze. So,
right.
But after 4 Galvanic, what do you got?
Torrential Gearhulk, I think I would start at 3. The modern version was running 3 Snapcaster Mages, and that was a lot more efficient than Gearhulk. I also think raising the curve up to 6 can be a little hard. If I think we're probably running close to 24 lands in the combo deck because you don't want to flood out too much.
Right.
And I think in the Jeskai deck we're running 26
it's
lands.
26, yeah.
So cutting 1 6-drop from the deck will lower the curve a little bit. That's where the curve actually matters. Is you're curving into Gearhulk.
Right.
Anything other than that, curve doesn't matter. But you want to hit turn 6, land 6.
Right.
So that might not always happen. So I think cutting one of those is probably fine.
And ideally, we would just love to have an opening hand with 4 mana Saheeli and a Felidar Guardian and not have to worry about all this stuff. And because our draws get better and, so...
and Saheeli, right, like, she scries 1 and deals 1 damage. So if she's not dealt with, or even if you just play her for 3, like, she's going to help fix your next draw. So that can kind of help mitigate the flood or screw wherever you're at, as long as you're able to play her.
Right. All right, so 3 Torrential Gearhulks locked in. What you got next?
Counter Magic.
So we're at 4 Felidar Guardian, 4 Saheeli Rides 8, 4 Spell Queller 12, 4 Anticipate 16, 4 Glimmers is 20, 4 Galvanic Bombardment is 24, 3 Torrential Gearhulks is 27.
All right, so for the main deck, if we're playing 24 lands, getting 36, leaves us 9 spots, and we're going to say, what, 8? 8 of which? Or 9.
Our removal?
Our counter magic.
Well, see, I think that takes us back to our conversation then about how much main board, because right now we're building a main, right? Right now we're building a 60. This 60 will just to be a baseline for the rest of our conversation to get to a 75. But how much interaction are we worried about? I mean, Unlicensed Disintegration is still a card.
Yes.
Murder, I don't know if it's going to see that big of a rise. I mean, I really like casting Yahini's Expertise on turn 4, casting Grasp or Murder underneath it, just to take care of a bigger threat. So I don't know what number you're going to have.
Fatal Push is going to be the main removal spell for all of the black decks. It's just going to be super efficient. Even if you're casting a Fatal Push off of his Expertise, chances are one of your things is going to die, which is going to trigger your little Revolt so you can kill something with CMC 4 or greater.
Right.
Fatal Push is the one to worry about.
Fatal Push, sure. Okay. And that's going to be efficient for them, too.
Super efficient. Yeah. Absolutely, just one of the best. If it's not replacing Grasp of Darkness, it's going to go alongside it very, very well. And any deck that wants to run more than 4 removal spells, which is most decks. Even if you're on the aggro spectrum, you're going to want more than 4 removal spells generally.
It's the reason we saw some of the Marvel decks start running blue. So that they could interact with interaction.
Right. They're running Ceremonious or Negate out of the sideboard.
Right. So because even they had to deal with Copter. Yep. So Emrakul goes suck it.
Yep. Exactly.
You're both band together. All right. So if we have 9 slots left, and you're saying you don't want 4 dispels, which I totally agree with because we don't just want to protect our combo. And we're not going to have, obviously, is protecting Spell Queller going to be a priority? Basically, we're not going to play Spell Queller at the end of the turn for no value if we don't have to because it's not a win condition. Now, given the right matchup in game 2 or 3, why not?
Yeah, maybe you just want to apply pressure.
Right.
But that's not the idea behind the card.
So then is protecting the combo and protecting Spell Queller, are these important things? Basically, I'm asking, Dispel takes care of instants. Negate's going to take care of things that interact with our Spell Quellers. Are they using Sorcery Speed, or does Negate...
Sorcery Speed or Stasis Snare. Stasis Snare is one of the hardest cards to interact with in the format, because it's played at instant speed, but you can't dispel it.
But Fragmentize, Nate, Fragmentize!
It is Sorcery Speed.
I know. I got you. Don't worry.
You know what? You probably want some in the sideboard, because it gets rid of a lot of things. It gets rid of Heart of Kirin and the Aethersphere Harvester and all this sort of stuff, as well as Stasis Snare, are always watching.
But not Constantly Crackdown.
Does not get rid of Constantly Crackdown.
They costed Constantly Crackdown perfectly.
Yes, they did.
But they also printed Decommission.
Yes.
So, fair enough. So, Negate is good. Dispel is good, main board. Do we push the envelope and say we're a control deck? Disallow should be at least a one of in the main board.
I like at least one Disallow main. I also like the idea of running main board Revolutionary Rebuff. I think it's a good main board card to have, and you side it out aggressively if you see a bunch of artifacts. But I think it's a good main board option. Without Copter, most of the things that you're going to try and hit on turn 2 are going to be affected by it. You're not going to be able to hit a Heart of Kirin, but you can still Revolutionary Rebuff their creature that they need to crew it, or their Planeswalker that they need to crew it, and you don't feel bad about it, because those are often going to be real cards that you're countering, as opposed to, you play Copter on turn 2, you can't rebuff it. They play a 3-man Inspector turn 3. Do you really want to rebuff that? Because they're going to be able to pay 2 more mana for it anyways.
Sure.
And so, because Heart of Kirin's crew cost is 3, they're going to have to play an actual card to be able to crew it.
Right.
Or they have to play a Nissa or a Gideon to be able to take the loyalty counter off to crew it, which is also an actual card. So I think rebuff is very live in those type of matchups. And you know what? If they're playing just red-white vehicles and they're running playsets of the Aethersphere Harvester or Heart of Kirin or even Cultivator's Caravan is still really good.
Right.
You board it out. You bring in your negates because that takes care of everything.
Start your engines as a sorcery, right?
Start your engines as a sorcery.
It's coming, man.
Yes.
It's coming.
Yes, that is a sorcery. Still gets rebuffed.
That's one of those Saheeli cards, right? There wasn't enough good vehicles to run in what's the name of the Kaladesh?
Yeah.
But now it's coming. So yeah. So basically, what I'm seeing here and what I'm writing down is a toolbox of counterspells.
Right.
For the 60, not the 75.
Right.
And then having access in the 75 to
customize the counter suite up to a certain match.
All of the correct ones. So I'll ask you this. You've already said Dispel you want 4 of in the 75.
Yes.
Let's talk 75 here. How many negates do you want in the 75?
No less than 3. But maybe 3 is just the right number.
So 3 in the 75.
We'll call it 3.
Sure. And let's take the matchup where you're talking about the Heart of Kirin.
Right.
They're playing Planeswalkers. Cooper in our group
Yep.
play testing. He built an Oath of the Johnny type deck. Kind Kaya, my blonde husky yellow lab, is visiting with us and bugging Nate. She's the quiet one. If the big black dog wakes up, Onyx,
you'll hear.
Yeah, there'll be some noise. But if that deck's running a multitude of planeswalkers, to the point where the controller forgets
to activate
or which he's activated, or tries to double activate, and I have to play his deck for him.
Right.
It's already happened. Do you not just want 4 negates in that matchup?
Probably.
Is that not a matchup that we're not going to hedge against?
Probably not. I think that those type of matchups are, if they're running a mass amount of just planeswalkers are sorcery speed, and if you're able to establish your combo, they're not going to have a lot of ways to interact.
Sure.
And you can just kind of beat them to the punch before they're able to get value off of all their stuff and determine their win condition. You can just say, hey, I'm going to slam my combo with a counter spell. I don't need to get into a counter war.
Right.
I have one to protect it.
Yeah.
So I think that's not really one to hedge against. Even if we are, again, Revolutionary Rebuff, that's going to be a tap-out style deck.
All right, then let's talk about Revolutionary Rebuff. How many in the 75?
I say 2, and I think that they should be main board.
How do you come up with these numbers? And that's a very serious question.
It's a lot of instinct.
Okay.
I think that 2 is a very weird number because I think one-ofs are good.
Are you saying 2's an odd number? It's actually even, Nate. Is that why you chose weird?
Yes.
Okay, all right. Weird. So it's a weird number. Continue.
It's a weird number.
Okay.
Because if you're... Generally, a lot of people is like 4 or 0 is a baseline to start with, especially with something like Galvanic Bombardment. If you want to see it often, but you don't necessarily need to see it in every game, you generally go to 3. Mm-hmm. If you want to see it some part of the time, but it's not absolutely necessary, maybe you run it one of. A lot of times for threats or silver bullet type cards, one-ofs are perfectly fine. I think Revolution Rebuff is ultimately just in between there. Like, I want to see it. It's going to get some sort of value a lot of the time, but it's not going to be great any of the time, I don't think. So I think 2 is a decent number to have. It's a very medium card most of the time, and it does its job, but it's not going to be super impressive that I want to see it in every matchup.
So just referencing Antonio Del Moral Leon's winning deck from Fate Reforged in Modern, he's running 1 Dispel.
Right.
And that's basically what you're saying here. It doesn't have to see it. Wouldn't mind seeing it. Basically he's running a toolbox of the counter spells here. Cryptic Command being a toolbox in and of itself. Yeah. Even that's only a 2 of. But he is running 4 Remand. And again, like we were talking about with Electrolyze, it says draw a card on a counter spell.
It says draw a card.
So
it's not a hard counter spell, but right. It's just tempo. But oftentimes, so I think that deck was much more able to disrupt its opponent with its counter pieces. The curve that made so many opponents to Blue-Red Twin mad was the turn 3 pass, end step, tap your land, or upkeep, flash in Pestromite, tap your land, so you only have access to 2 mana, and then untap, cast your Splinter Twin and win, and you're not going to be able to do anything about it.
Right.
Our combo piece doesn't have that type of disruption. There's other value to it, but it's not like that. So if you're able to just remand something, that tempo is often going to be good enough to just get you there.
Right.
Time walking your opponent and drawing you a card a lot of the time.
Right.
Is very good.
Okay. So I mean, if we go off this deck, the Blue-Red Splinter Twin deck, it basically shows us that even he was running a toolbox within a control shell.
Yeah.
Obviously with the removal pieces we talked about as well. So counter spells, 4 dispels in the 75, 3 negates in the 75. 2 revolutionary rebuffs in the 75. Leaves us with disallow and summary dismissal, as you've mentioned, as cards that we can think about. So what do you think for numbers there?
Summary dismissal is somewhere between 1 and 3.
Is summary dismissal strictly a sideboard card at this point of us brewing this deck?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. definitely a sideboard card.
Okay.
And I would be more willing to sit on. I think 4 total between summary dismissal and disallow is where I want to be. Whether that's 1 of one and 3 of the other, that flipped, or 2 of each is to be determined. Right now, I would hedge on 3 disallows and 1 summary dismissal. Disallow having the same utility without being all encompassing, but cheaper is probably better. If Eldrazi is a thing, whether that's Ulamog or World Breaker,
yeah,
or something like that.
Yeah. Reality Smasher, but Cast Trigger. You're right. Thought Not Seer.
Thought Not Seer is an ETB.
Okay.
So,
it is an ETB. Yeah. Why? That's a funky one.
Yeah.
That one always throws me off.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's great with Panharmonicon.
I did that.
That's super good.
Okay, so if we're saying 4 Dispel, 3 Negate, 3 Disallow, 1 Summer Dismissal, 2 Revolutionary Rebuff, that's 7, 10, 13. We're looking for 8 slots. So 8 out of 13, that means 5 straight to the sideboard?
That's a lot. It's definitely a lot.
8 in the main board is a lot?
No, the 5 in the sideboard. Dedicating a third of your sideboard to counter magic when you already have a lot, that just seems like a lot.
These are your numbers.
I know they're my numbers. I'm looking at them now going, I don't know if that's right.
Well, that's fine. And again, and I think just to explain to the audience, this is why you do a 75.
Yeah.
Because then you start saying, well, do I really need to see, and my eye immediately goes to, do I really need to see, 3 Disallow, 4 Dispel if I'm running the gates, things like that.
Yeah, and I think that's ultimately right, and I think I would shave at least 1 Disallow out of the 75 and go down to 2.
Okay.
And then it's a matter of shaving 1 Negate or 1 Dispel. I think I actually just lean on a Dispel, because I think in the matchups where you want it, 3 is probably going to be enough because you're still keeping in Negate. That's probably better. That cuts it down to 13 total. No.
Is it also better, like, Dispel? That's really our don't stop me from going off card.
Right.
Right? Because it's efficient, it's at 1 mana. So holding that and wanting to play it in multiples probably won't happen. Especially if we're playing in a control shell, we can go the long game.
Right.
And we can wait till we have the 1 Dispel in hand to then say, now's the time, and hold it up. So, like, casting multiple Dispels a game probably isn't in our game plan.
No, like, maybe 2. If you're running against, theoretically, a blue-red Dynavolt type list where where you go to combo, they try to stop it with a shock, you dispel it, they negate your dispel, and you dispel that.
Right.
Sure. That's probably, it's a super French situation where it'd be good, but at that point, you might be able to just dispel into negate. So
the other one that we're ignoring, and probably for good reason, because Copter's out of the format, is Ceremonious Rejection. And Ether works Marvel without Emrakul. The 2 big artifacts. Should that have any consideration?
Not right now.
Okay.
I ultimately don't think they're going to be a big part of the format. I think that if they do become a big part of the format,
Did you call it a farmat?
Farmat.
A farmat.
Yeah, farmat, like farmer.
Like farmers,
yes.
Like format is a farmat?
Yes,
like,
farmat.
Is that a new thing?
It's not.
Standard?
It was me not being able to talk well.
So like if I walk into Island and I just announce and say, everybody welcome to the new standard farmat, they'll all know what that is, right?
No.
Okay. So I don't get royalties off it?
No.
All right, fine.
You don't. We can coin it, though.
All right.
Dude, we can have Cold Brew MTG farm mats.
Cold Brew, yo, you're giving away too much stuff now. I'm going to have to edit that out of the podcast.
Cut it. It's fine. Farm mats.
Farm mats. Oh, no way. For my caravan of cultivators.
Yes.
Oh, I love you guys.
Yeah.
All right.
So I think if we're worried about Aetherworks Marvel or vehicles, the Revolutionary Rebuffs just become Ceremonious Rejection.
Okay. Because
they do the exact opposite of each other.
Obviously.
There's a little bit more utility with Ceremonious. You can counter a Transgress the Mind. You can counter actual Ulamog. Not the cast trigger, but the creature itself, or any of the other Eldrazi, Void Shatter, etc.
Yeah, I was going to say Void Shatter and Spell Shrivel come to mind as
But I think those spells ultimately get outclassed by respectively disallow and metallic rebuke.
Yeah. If blue white flash is still a deck, they're probably going to turn to disallow.
And they were playing spell shrivel, and I think they turned to metallic rebuke,
right?
Because the flash ultimately kind of morphed into Esper aggro, where they're playing 3-man inspectors, they get clues. They're playing Scrap Heap Scroungers.
Do you really want to tap? I've been battling with that. Like you're running Scrap Heap Scrounger. Do you really want to tap? There's your 3-power beater.
So I played Esper aggro this past Monday.
Right.
I never touched the deck before. I ended up going 3-1. Yeah. But there were so many matchups where they're just sitting with the Thalia on board, and like I know that Scrap Heap can't block, but I'm not going to just suicide into Thalia.
Sure, yeah.
So being able to get a small amount of value when you want to counter something else is probably fine.
That's true, and I've been on the fence about it too, because it is, and I play with Scrap Heap in the Delirium deck when I forced it to be an aggressive deck because I was just pissed off with it. But yeah, there were times where, I mean, suiciding your Scrap Heap with open mana sometimes, but more often than not, they block it the way they're supposed to.
You were playing Blossoming Defense, so I mean, there's stuff that you can hold up. I'm playing Esper aggro. There's nothing
you're not holding up.
I'm doing.
So giving your Scrap Heap late game some utility,
right,
isn't bad. Sure.
When at worst case, it's Spell Shrivel, but they have to pay 1 less mana. I think if you're in the case where they have 3 or 4 open mana, I'd rather just not have it anyways, because they might just let it get countered and cast something else.
Sure.
So I think that the difference in that 1 mana is not enough to offset the ability to possibly cast it for 1 mana. So
well, and that's the thing. You go all the way down to 1. But, trick question. Mana Leak is greater than Spell Shrivel, true or false?
True.
Okay, it wasn't a trick question at all. You pass, yeah. If you had the option to run Mana Leak or Spell Shrivel,
you absolutely run Mana Leak.
You absolutely run Mana Leak. Except if you're running Corrupted Crossroads, then you can't cast Mana Leak off Corrupted Crossroads.
That is true.
So Spell Shrivel is better in a deck that runs Corrupted Crossroads.
Yes.
I've broken the meta.
Whatever deck that is.
Once again, I've broken the meta.
Yes.
That's all I do, bro. All right. Tell me when those farm mats get printed.
Yes.
I want to order 2 of them on pre-order.
It's going to be grass.
All right, so where we're at with the counter toolbox. 3 dispels in the 75, 3 negates in the 75, 2 disallow in the 75, 1 summary dismissal, and 2 revolutionary rebuff. If my math is correct, that is 11. If we want 8 in the main board, that's 3 in the sideboard. Are you okay with that number?
I'm okay with that. I also think we have 9 spots left in the 60.
We have 9 spots that we're trying to...
So I actually think 7 is probably an okay place to start because, as we discussed last night, I like running Fumigate, and I know we talked about Radiant Flames as the electrolyze of the crossover, but I think you made a good enough point that I am off that concept. I don't think it's close as it is. Maybe there's room for it against super aggressive decks that a turn 3 board wipe is what you want, but Fumigate is just the best reset button in the format. Being able to just wipe your opponent's board and gain some life and just say, we're playing a new game now. I don't care if I'm at 8 life and you're at 20. Your life total doesn't matter. We're playing a new game. All I have to do is not take 8 damage, and you can reset that and just kind of go from there.
Let me ask you a question. Did you ever play Madden on Sega Genesis? Like the original one?
No.
Okay.
I played Madden every year from 2001 to 2016. I owned a copy every year. I got it on release day for my birthday.
Okay. So then what did you play on? PlayStation 2001?
PlayStation 2.
Okay, PlayStation 2. There were reset buttons on those machines, right?
Yeah.
I played,
yeah. I mean, I played Second Gen.
Okay.
I just didn't play Madden.
You played Madden, sure.
I played Sonic and Contra.
Okay. But those were 1-player games. Did you ever play a 2-player game on Sega against somebody? That's why I brought it Madden.
Yeah.
All right. Did you hit the reset button, or did you just pull the cartridge out?
I turned the power off.
Okay. But you never hit the reset button.
No.
Okay. So what I'm drawing here is Fumigate, reset button, or pulling the power out.
The power out being a scoop.
I don't know if they'd scoop it. Well, okay, sure. If you want to.
What's the analogy to pulling the power out?
Well, I don't know. That's what I'm asking you. Like Fumigate for me seems like just a reset button because of vehicles.
Sure.
Am I just overly scared of vehicles?
I think you are.
Am I?
But what costs the same as Fumigate and is better against vehicles?
Consulate Crackdown.
Right.
Gotcha. I'm preaching about it.
I think that's something that if you're running your Fumigates and vehicles are a thing, you run Consulate Crackdown on the sideboard. If vehicles are a super thing, maybe you split. You run one of each in the main and one of each in the sideboard. If it becomes that much of a thing, I don't think it is.
I'm going to coin a term here. I'm copter jaded.
Fair.
Okay.
Absolutely fair.
Copter jaded.
I love my Smuggler's Copters. I enjoyed playing with them on Monday night last night.
I never played a deck with Smuggler's Copter. And I also only 4-0'd once in this entire standard. Is there a parallel there?
Why didn't you play Smuggler's Copter last night? You're playing Grixis Madness, discard, fair, and you're not going to get more copies of a card that's going to be banned in less than a week.
Sure, but honestly, Copter always became to me this card that I'd open in a pack. I'd pull and draft. I'd have one, and the likelihood of me going, hey, you want to trade me 3 Copters? To the likelihood of, hey, you want a Copter?
Yeah.
So I always traded away my Copters.
That's fair. I pulled one very early in the format, and then one of my old somebody I used to play with back in the day was selling his standard collection to move and gave me a really good deal on them. They were about $10 a piece that I bought them for.
And they were, 15 at the time?
They were at 15 at the time. And even then, up until they got banned, they were probably about that. So
what are they now, 4?
Oh, I don't know. I have no idea how much they dropped.
Yeah, well, we can look it up later.
Yeah.
All right, so back to the 75 here, counter spells. And I feel like this is good conversation because basically we are prognosticating the meta right now.
Yeah.
I'm Copter jaded.
Yeah.
And you have a little more of a level head because you've played in more standards, you've seen broken cards, and you kind of know the flow of competitive Magic. So with these 11 that we've gone over in the 75, you're saying now 7 counterspells main?
7 main board with the 2 Fumigates gives us our starting 60 plus 24 lands. And I'll go over the mana base. Jesse's going to give me the cue, and he's going to look away for about a couple of minutes.
Yeah, I can put together a mana base that looks good to me, and it's not good. So 2 Fumigates we're locking into the main board.
Yes,
and that's going to be our Electrolyze, but more so than that, we're installing a reset button with a turn the power out option in the sideboard, which I'm loving.
Yes.
That's Consulate Crackdown. That was
It's Ultimate Crackdown. No more access to Ether.
Oh my God.
Power is out.
The power is out. Oh, it's so good.
Right.
Leaving us 7 spots for our counter toolbox.
Yeah.
What are you thinking for the 60?
So I immediately start with 2 revolutionary rebuffs.
And give me why for the 60.
So for the 60, again, they're not particularly effective in any one given matchup, but they're perfectly medium in all the matchups.
Okay.
So I think that's the epitome of a card that I want to see in most times, but sideboard aggressively if it doesn't do what I want it to.
Sure. A lot of the aggressive decks, especially in the beginning of a new meta, they're going to be tap out. Whether they know it or not, they're going to be tap out. So, and
they're generally going to be creature based. Sure, vehicles is fine, whatever, but they're going to be creature based.
A vehicle without something to crew it, minus the Heart of Kiran, does not a vehicle make.
Right.
Revolutionary Rebuff can also hit
planeswalkers,
creatures and planeswalkers that can crew it. Yeah. So sure, play all the creatures you want. I'll still win. Then I'll bring in Consulate Crackdown. Stop your creatures. Stop your pull the power out and laugh in your face.
Yes,
I love it already. Okay,
so those are the first 2.
Okay,
and then there's 2 disallows. I think there's 1 summary dismissal, which is sideboard immediately.
Sure,
2 disallows, 3 negates, and 3 dispels, and we need 5,
and that is 7. So cutting 2 or picking 5? How do you go about this?
I would go for picking first,
while
I still can, and I look at disallow. Being again a lot like Revolutionary Rebuff, it's perfectly fine in most instances. It's a cancel at worst, with some utility. And if there's stuff that I'm not really getting full value and I can swap it out for more efficient stuff, I will. But it's a fine main board card.
Disallow, like you were saying earlier about when we were talking about what counters to run, Ormondal.
Yes.
Ormondal, if we play against it, will be in their main deck.
Yeah,
It'll be a part
absolutely.
of it. So hedging Ormondal...
Planeswalkers. You can, like, they ult.
They're
and you say disallow.
Sure.
So I think that's a good place to be.
How many did you say did you want in the 60?
Two in the 75, 2 in the 60.
Sure. There is 2 in the 75, and we'll start with him in the 60. That sounds fine. You have one more spot. No.
3 more spots.
3 more, yeah, sorry. We had 7.
So between 3 negates and 3 dispels,
yep.
I'd probably say at least 1 of each.
Okay.
And, oh, God.
So I'll stop you here as a process. So we've put in Revolutionary Rebuff because we're a control shell.
Right.
A lot of our conversation we've been having probably for the last 20 minutes is not Saheeli, Felidar Guardian related.
No.
We're actually building a deck. So Rebuff fits into that control shell.
Right.
After that, Disallow fits into that control shell.
Right.
Do we now look at Dispel and Negate and go, which help the combo? So 1 Dispel, 1 Negate, I agree with you on.
Yeah.
For that last one, do we just have to say what helps the combo?
I think for game 1, you help the combo.
Okay.
You have the possibility to just get free wins with the combo when they're not sure what deck you're running. Maybe you're just straight Jeskai control, or maybe they know that you're running that, but they don't have specific answers to deal with it. They have in their sideboard. So Dispel is going to deal with a lot of the main board interaction that people have.
Okay.
So I think that probably gets the hedge there.
Sure. So 2 in the 60.
2 Dispels and 1 Negate.
And 1 Negate in the 60. Cool.